Welcome to VMblog's coverage of the KubeCon CloudNativeCon 2024 event taking place in Salt Lake City. And today we're fortunate to have with us for the first time Gabriel Manor, the VP of Developer Relations of Permit. Welcome.
Hello, good to be here.
So to kind of kick things off, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just give us a little more info about you and your role at the company. And then if you could, give us a quick overview of Permit.
Yeah, so Gabriel, as you mentioned, I'm a long-year developer, mostly 12 years now. Been in many functions from developer to principal to staff engineer. And for the last 2 years, I'm working as a developer relations, which I'm trying to bridge the Permit product for developers. Permit is a product that is focused on authorization, is allowing developers to do better authorizations in their product. And I have extensive background in authorization somehow since 2015. I always work in some function that related to authorization. I worked a couple of years at Cisco in a product that do authentication and authorization for network access. Then I work on the authorization side of a product that I was a principal engineering. And then I work on a startup also on the topic of authorization in multiple angles. And then when I decided to move into more business customer faces function, I was super happy to work on a domain that I'm super familiar with, authorization.
So could you tell us a little bit more about Permit and also tell us how you guys work together with KubeCon CloudNativeCon ecosystem?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Permit is as mentioned, is a developer-focused product. It's a product that helps developers to implement fine-grained authorization or better permissions in their application. And we are super connected to the cloud native ecosystem because authorization is not a new problem. It's a problem that exists in the market for years, right? And since the first day that users used computers, you need to know what each user can do, right? Like models like mandatory access control is like ages here. But the cloud native, and especially the nature of distributed applications and the amount of data that we are processing across cloud native architectures made the permissions much finer problem that it was before. If we are looking like 10 years ago, 15 years ago on a monolith on-prem application, all the data has one source of truth. You can segmentize user by roles, and then you know what a user can do. The nature of cloud native application made authorization decision to need the need to be more fine grained. And then the decision, if I want to build it myself, I want to integrate with the product that will do 80% of what I will do anyway in any product, became a much more significant question. And this is why, if you look at the cloud native ecosystem, they choose to be fine-grained and get some help from external product or tool or service or open source library, whatever, each developer has its own preferences on how to choose the product in the ecosystem. Became a decision that everyone needs to make. In more particular for the KubeCon and the CNCF, this is not the first one that we actually sponsor. I think it's the fourth or the five, and we are a kind of young startup. We funded on 2021 because KubeCon is the place where you get the best diversity of IT or computer science functions. You're getting developers, you're getting DevOps, you're getting like IT architectures, you're getting engineering leadership, you're getting all of them, and you can listen, you can understand better the problem for more and more domains. So it's not only about, making people aware of the product or know about the product, it's about learn on the problem and how we can solve it better.
Yeah, so we're here talking about the upcoming KubeCon event. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, for those folks who are going to be attending the show and they're watching this video, talk about some of the specific problems your company is solving for them, and maybe what are some of the specific use cases that they would be interested in learning more about.
Yeah, so I'll get to that question from two angles. The first one is how Permit incorporate with tools that are popular in the cloud native landscape. And second is from the product perspective. So let's start with the angle of the tool. Many cloud native developers knows Open Policy Agent, know Open Policy FGA, OpenFGA. They are both tools that are great in making decisions. Open Policy Agent, I think, is the best policy engine out there. You can load policies to it, you can load data to it, and it will get you policies very fast in a very efficient way. But Open Policy Agent is lacking with incorporate with other components. So Opal, the open source tool of Permit and Permit that built on top of Opal, is solve this exact problem. It's a tool that deploying Open Policy Agent as an end-to-end authorization service. It has. I'll not dive into the technical details of Opal, of Open Policy Administration Layer, but in general, think about a way that you can deploy OPA, the same that you deploy any kind of OPA, but with a wrapper that allow you to dynamic get events and data into it. So dynamically get all the data you need into the policy engine, and also keep the policy synchronized with the policy store, with the Git repository where you actually store the policies. So for everyone who is using OPA in scale, Opal can help them to make it a really scalable and reliable service. Same for OpenFGA. Again, OpenFGA is a great tool for fine-grained authorization, but when it comes to synchronize with data, to synchronize with your app, to have better APIs for your app, it's like, so we say, we know that there is a great policy engines out there. We can help your application to work with them better. So that's from the cloud native perspective. From the authorization perspective, so we see more and more users and developers who came to KubeCon and they want to modernize the system, right? One of the thing that is significant advantage of the cloud native and the KubeCon is for organization that has their own on-prem architecture, has their own things, and they really want to modernize that. And the cloud native give you the right ecosystem to do that. In that ecosystem, Permit can give you the right way to actually modernize your authorization layer. So no matter if you just want to provide an authorization layer or you want to modernize your authorization layer, make it more fit to the cloud native era, Permit really can help you with that.
Now, it sounds like your product is mostly a kind of a wrapper for OPA. Could you kind of go into a little bit more detail, specifics about what it does and how you're differentiated in the market against other.
Yeah. So actually, I'll not say that the product is a wrapper on OPA. Opal, the Open Policy Administration, our open source project, is mainly a wrapper of OPA that trying to make OPA accessible for to be authorization service, but not only to OPA. Opal, the Open Policy Administration Layer, is agnostic to the engine. It can work with AWS Cedar, another great policy engine for verified permission. It can work with OpenFGA. And also the community is creating more and more policy engine support for that. But Permit itself, Permit is more than a wrapper. Permit is an end-to-end authorization platform. There are many things that people do not think about it when they are thinking, okay, I need to do authorization. And they are immediately dive into, okay, how this authorization service will get decision. But authorization service is much more than that. It's decision logs, it's user management, it's the way that you actually sync the data into the authorization. Just as a note, authorization or permissions is not like authentication where you can isolate the problem from the business domain. So authentication, if you want to verify your users, you have this external service and your user getting there, they're getting the credentials, and then you just check the credentials and verify them anyway, right? Authorization is a problem that is actually incorporated to the business domain. The data that influence the policy decision is data that is actually the application business domain. The decision are happen at every step of the business domain. The query, if what a user can do, is something that particularly coupled with the business domain. And all these problems are not something that's solved with any kind of policy engines. So Permit, the cloud platform, is a cloud platform that gives you end-to-end with tons of features. Like, for example, just a small example. One of Permit features is called Permit Elements. One of the things with authorization that is actually the phase that you want to delegate permissions to your users. Users are now understanding requirement much better than before, especially security requirements. User want to own their data. User want to make sure that you do privacy, and user actually know to ask for features. So permit element is a set of UI components that related to authorizations. For example, manage user and roles, or access requests for particular resources, or create approval flow of particular flows in the system, and to integrate them into your app instead of like writing them yourself, which is the same for any app. You can use the permit ready-made UI components. So the permit platform is like one-stop shop for every authorization needs, that is also understand that authorization is also a business problem and incorporate seamlessly as it can into the product.
Now, KubeCon is every year it gets bigger and bigger. It's a great event and it's got lots of really good vendors that are going to be in the expo area, your company included. What do you think from a KubeCon attendee perspective, those folks that are showing up at the show, they're coming here to learn more about the different technologies that can help them in their everyday lives at work. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that attendees are facing right now, and maybe talk about how Permit can help, solve some of those challenges?
Yeah, so we kind of touch some of them in the past, but I think the first one is about fine-grained authorization. I meet a lot of developers every week. I think I do more than 10 customer meetings or user meetings, and the understanding that my authorization service needs to be better, needs to be finer, is something that every developer's got into at some point. And if you are coming to KubeCon and you're looking for things that can help you actually solve the problem that you tackle now or you'll tackle in the very near future, authorization is literally one of the biggest one. And it's not only about permit. There will be also, I'll not talk, of course, about competitors, but there is a lot of open source. And if you'll go to there is the space where is the project, the incubated project, you'll see there are also OpenFGA and OPA, and it's also worth to speak with them because they also have a lot of knowledge and information about the problem domain. That's the first one. I think the second one is something that I really, I started to talk about it lately, and it's more, there are most of the security features is something that only cost you. You have the CISO budget and it costs you a lot. One unique thing about permissions and unique thing about authorization, that could be a revenue-driven security feature. Because let's talk about, for example, the healthcare market, right? If you think about it, maybe 2018, 2020, you have no idea where your data is. Right? You have the doctor, and the doctor has somehow access to your data, but the digital transformation of healthcare, and especially, I'm not sure if it's appropriate to say thanks to COVID, but thanks to COVID, the digital transformation of healthcare made users aware of their data. I would move to an HMO that let me manage my data, that let me decide who can see my data, and also from the self-service perspective, let me decide who can access my data from my family, from my baby, maybe, caregivers, etc. So permissions is kind of a security feature that really can drive revenue. So if you're looking on security and thinking of, okay, I just don't want to spend my money on things that just to protect me from attack that I don't know if it will arrive. I want to do security that actually help me with features, help me with functionality. Permission and authorization is definitely one of the top in this list.
So at KubeCon, is Permit going to be making any new announcements, or do you have any recent announcements that you can talk about?
Yeah, so we are planning some large announcement for KubeCon, but we'll save that for KubeCon, so wait and see. I can see that one of the recent announcements that make me super excited is Permit's, I'll call it OpenTofu or Terraform provider. As you probably know, you can write policies code for OPA using the Rigo language. You can express policies for OpenFGA. You can write things with the Cedar language for AWS Cedar. But as I said, authorization is not only getting a decision, it's much more than that. And one of the things that we saw in Permit is super important to decouple the schema, the policy rules, for example, what an admin can do in the app from the data, which user has assignment as an admin, just a very basic example. And we decided to release a Terraform provider that allow you to write only the schema, because that's the thing that is actually part of the application configuration. And this schema is translated to either Rigo or Cedar or OpenFGA expressive code. So by using Terraform, by using Permit Terraform provider, you can actually model and declare policies much easier than write it in particular policy languages.
Now, without asking you to give anything away, where Brian and I like to when we talk to folks, we want to figure out, where do they see things kind of headed? What are some of the big trends that your company is following as we get closer and closer to 2025? Can you maybe talk about some of those things?
Yeah, so definitely our startup, our company is in the middle of a trend. The trend is of fine-grained authorization is here. And I say, I'll do a little humble. I think that the market education we do on fine-grained authorization help the whole market, even companies that is not our company. And for me, it's very exciting time. I can experience the developer relations, the way that I create content, the way that I educate the market about fine-grained authorization. I got lucky. Because I got just when the trends start to grow, and me and my colleagues and friends from the industry just every day working really hard to educate the market on the importance of fine-grained authorization, how to do things right, how to make sure that you actually get the final permissions, but also that are easy to audit and easy to manage. So definitely we are continue to grow the fine-grained authorization market. And we also in a very good position that we don't need to take a position on what engine or what model, because we actually support them all. And I think that the main thing we are going, the trend that, as I said, the trend that we see is that people understanding more and more the importance of authorization and even how it can drive revenues for that. And we just all in for it.
So now that we know more about Permit, would it be possible to take a quick look at the product?
Yeah, sure. So I think the best way to experience Permit is something that is also kind of unique for us, is our policy editor. So we have a cloud product that let you edit policies or create policies, and all the policies that you actually create on the UI are auto-generated as Rigo code or as the language that you choose the policy engine will be, and then propagated to policy decision point. So I think the most exciting is the easiest way you can configure even very complex policies in the Permit product. So this is the main screen of Permit, and we can see here that we have many functionalities to do, but what we want to look at is actually the policy editor. The way that the policy is modeled in Permit is a way that understand that at the end, every decision that you want to do on authorization is combined of three components. It's a very known model of subject, action, resource. Subject could be the user or the resource. Action is what they're trying to do, and the resource is the resource that you try to perform. And this policy editor is actually, this one is a very, of course, complex example, and you have the filters here that you can filter the table with only roles and stuff that you want. But the main principle of this table is that the column that you see here is multiple ways to create user segmentation. So you can segmentize user with the roles. You can segmentize user with conditions. So for example, if they are safe users, and we'll get to that soon to see what does that mean. And here the rows are actually the resources themselves and the action that each resource can perform. The policy is the checkbox that you see here. That means, is this user that is account beneficiary can read account, they can't add beneficiaries, and they can add members. You can also see the configuration in a flat way like this one, and then we can see that account beneficiary can read account and add members to it, and can list transaction. But we can also see that they can create small transactions and small wires. But for creating large transaction, you're not able. And we have a different way to configure small transactions. For example, large transaction, we are allowing only strong auth owner to do that. So again, this is a very complex one, but the nice thing is that everything here is configurable. So we have the resources that we can configure. And as you can see here, we have the saving plan, we have wire, this, as you can imagine, kind of a banking system. So this is the way that we are actually segmentizing resources. And this is the way that we are actually creating roles. So you can see we have here role of, account owner and account beneficiary. And we can also have the conditions that we describe. So for example, we have safe owner. We can say that the user that has, for example, a one-time password or something like that, we can configure all the conditions. And the nice thing about Permit is not support only attribute-based access control and role-based access control, is also support the trending Google Zanzibar model or relationship-based access control. So for example, here we can create a relationship between saving plan and transaction. So transaction could belong to a saving plan. So saving plan is a parent of transaction. And then we can give users implicit grant of permissions based on relationships between saving plan and transaction. So if we'll go to role, we can see that a saving plan advisor is also get implicit grant into transaction sender. So they can view the transaction that a user did inside or as part of this saving plan. So that's actually the way that you are modeling the schema, but Permit also gives you, of course, ways to sync your data into Permit, etc. So for example, here we have the directory, which is mainly read-only things. Most of the things here will arrive through the API, but you can also see that for easy navigation. So you can see, for example, users, you can see user has role assignment in role-based access control or role assignment directly to instances for relationship-based access control. And you will have here also the instances. And by using Permit CLI, for example, you can also get the complete graph of the relationships of the users. And again, a lot of functionality that you can achieve via the UI that I'm showing here, or via the APIs and the SDK that Permit has for mostly any language.
Well, thanks for that great demo. Where can people go besides KubeCon event to find out more information about Permit?
Yeah, so of course, permit.io, this is our main website. You can visit there, see everything that we offer. We also have a very good blog. We are uploading very educational content about authorization, fine-grained authorization, so permit.io/blog. We also have a vibrant Slack community about authorization. This community is mainly for the open source, for Opal. People are all like the contributors are meeting there, and we have a lot of channels to talk open source. So if you want to get into that, io.permit.io/Slack will get you to the Slack community where we can be in touch. And yeah.
Great.
Well, great. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and we look forward to seeing you at the show.